Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I am your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman, and I am now a radio show DJ, host, personality. Well, I guess you have to have personality. Anyway, I just debuted my brand new show called Savannah on Film, and it focuses mainly on filmmaking in the Savannah, Georgia area where I'm from, but we talk about everything related to film, and I am saving those recorded episodes from the radio station that I'm recording them at, which you can eventually listen. I don't think at the recording of this. It's Father's Day when I'm recording this, so happy Father's Day to all those fathers. And let's not forget those stepfathers out there who do a great job, hopefully, of being a father. And we have a lot of blended families as such throughout the world, and so hopefully we just take time, those fathers, stepfathers, those grandfathers, sometimes who are fathers and who are great mentors to our young kids throughout the world. And let's just take a day to, at least we do here in the U.S., and some countries listening here may not observe the holiday, as it were, but happy Father's Day if you're a father out there. And if you're doing good things and taking care of your kids and doing what you ought to do and being a good father, then good for you, and congratulations on a job well done. So happy Father's Day. And as I said, I was recording this. I am recording this right now very early, unusually early on a Sunday morning for me to be awake. I like sleeping in when I can. Well, I didn't today. Of all days, I didn't. So I'm here to do this quick podcast episode, and I've got a few things in mind I'm talking about. Like, we're going to talk about the box office. We're going to talk about The Incredibles 2 in a minute. That's blowing up the box office. And just a few preliminary things. Let's get out of the way. You're listening to the Geek Homeworld podcast, where we talk about superheroes, sci-fi, action-adventure movies, television, stuff like that. Really cool, geeky things. And this is a good place where you can get your geek on. So we welcome you to the podcast, all our new listeners and all our listeners that have been with us. I'm in my 10th year of podcasting all together. And let's see, we're coming up in September on the official 4-year anniversary of the Geek Homeworld podcast. So very excited about that. I am. I said that like Yoda. Very excited about that. I am. Kind of moved my subject verbs around there. Any grammar people out there caught that. But very excited. This is a really good time. There's been a lot going on personally, family-wise, some illnesses, and I'm thankful that we've gotten through a good portion of those in the family. It kind of derailed some things, kept me a little bit from podcasting. You know, when life interferes, it interferes greatly. And no exception here. We're all not immune from life. So hopefully you're having a good day out there, a good evening, whenever you're listening to this, whether it's on Father's Day when this is recorded or in the future. So I hope you're really just having a wonderful day, and I hope it's going to be a great day for you. I'm sure it is. So here on the podcast, we talk about a lot of geeky things, and I am excited for Incredibles 2 that's coming out. I will probably not get to see it this weekend. I have been waiting for this movie before Cars 3 came out and all these other things that is it Pixar, Disney Pixar, whatever, that they were putting out. I was like, me and my friends, my friend Anthony especially, he was like, okay, where's Incredibles 2? And I just found out Cheryl, my wife, has not seen Incredibles. So I'm definitely going to try to look that up online or on demand or whatever you call it, and let her see it real quick before we run out to the theater, whenever that's going to be, whenever we're going to have time between taking care of family, and which is what you're supposed to do. But, when we get some downtime, we're going to try to watch The Incredibles and then go see the movie Incredibles 2. And that would be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to her seeing it. I think she's going to enjoy it. It's, a very fun movie, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. That's saying a lot because there's a lot out there. And let's see. I'm excited for Incredibles 2. And just looking at the preliminary box office, it did like $18.5 million. And for an animated, that was opening night, Thursday night. So Incredibles 2 did that, which was ahead of Finding Dory, which, is a sequel to Finding Nemo. And it had, I can't remember how many years between it. It could have been 10 plus years. I'm not sure, between that and Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. But we also had the same situation with The Incredibles and Incredibles 2. And I think that it picks up exactly where it left off. And so I'm excited about watching it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to go in there not trying to have really, really high expectations. I've learned that from a lot of films, especially Star Wars films. And if you want to hear some of my talk about Star Wars films like Solo, a review of that, we touched on that in our summer movie preview, which was the previous episode to this one. Plus, we talked about it on a regular episode of the podcast reviewing Solo. My final estimate was I probably need to see it again, and I'll probably enjoy it better the second time. But first time watching it, I just wasn't blown away by Solo. And I think the backlash is real. I think the boycott is real, or there's some aspect to it. I think there's fatigue in Star Wars. I think it's a lot of factors. But I think the main thing is I don't think Disney gave the fans what they wanted. Maybe we didn't need a Solo movie. Had they done Obi-Wan, maybe even with Ewan McGregor especially, tied in maybe some of the prequels or Obi-Wan later in life, or there's a lot of ways they could have went with it. Now, they did have the Darth Maul in there, which if you've not seen the cartoons of Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, then you'd be like, well, didn't he get cut in half in episode 1? And how is he back? Spoiler alert. Yeah, you'd be upset. And you're like, okay, that doesn't make sense. And honestly, it doesn't. So, Incredibles 2. I haven't seen it, so I can't fully review it. Hopefully, on a very future near episode, I'll be able to tell you how wonderful it was and how great it was, and I loved it. And maybe it's going to be one of my best or funnest movies of the year. And the record is Finding Dory for like the biggest opening and possibly the biggest ever animated movie. I have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct, or at least for Disney Pixar, definitely for them. And that's saying something because I think Toy Story 3 was very big. Well, all the Toy Story movies were big. Some talk of a Toy Story 4 coming, which would be fun. I'd watch it because Toy Story 3 really tugged at the heartstrings. It was really good. I think it's Andy. Was Andy the kid in there, and he was going away to college? Spoiler alert if you hadn't seen it. Kind of gave that away, but it's been out for years, so shouldn't be too much of a spoiler. It's not my fault if you don't get out there and see these great movies, but anyway, you should. That's a fun movie, and it's a good movie. And the movie Up was fun. So they have a lot of good movies, a good track record of movies. Even the first Cars was fun. I didn't need a second or a third or whatever, but then I kind of lost interest and all that. And I don't know, but some people enjoyed them. So as long as people go to see a movie, Disney, Star Wars, okay, and you make them the way they want to see them, Marvel, Infinity War, Black Panther, etc., Marvel, okay, see Disney, you can do it right. It can be done right. It can be done with great love and service to the fans. So it is possible. Yes. Take care of your business, basically. Give the fans what they want. We need Luke Skywalker. Anyway, I'm de-evolving or whatever. So I started off the episode here talking about a new venture that I have, and that is I have now fulfilled, and at the very beginning of it, and it wasn't a perfect launch. It wasn't exactly perfect the way I wanted to. The sound wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be. I'm used to being able to record on my own equipment, and I know the limitations of my equipment, and I was working with some older equipment, but it was in the radio station, and so it was a mixer board, a little bit different, and hadn't had that much hands-on. I knew the general concept. I think the thing that I was missing was maybe my cues, which there really weren't any, and I've got to just practice. And that's one of the things I talked about on Savannah on Film, that I'm talking about my radio show that I have, and is that you have to practice and hone your craft. You have to practice that craft and hone it and just work at it. And in the case of being a professional sound mixer, having my own professional grade equipment, you can do it without professional grade equipment, but it's much better when you have good quality equipment. You get better sound when you have better mics, you have better recorders. That's the heartbeat of your system, basically. You know, if you're using wireless lavs, that they're getting the best sound, and it's about technique too. It's not about having the best equipment. You can have not so great equipment but have better technique. And so I'm not going to go into great detail like what I talked about, but if you want to hear my first show, it's called Savannah on Film, and it's going to be playing live. So I usually will have, if everything goes well, some may be recorded, but my plan is to go live with it. And I did my first episode where I actually had Cheryl, my wife, interview me, the host, which we thought would be a different way to start the first episode. Instead of me interviewing people, she would turn around and get to know your host kind of thing, which is me. So you can listen on 107.5 FM if you're here in Savannah, Georgia. It's kind of a limited to the city or parts of the city here, so you can listen live and local. So later on, I do believe they archive the shows at www.wruu.org. That's www.wruu.org, 107.5 FM. And you can listen on the World Wide Web. You can listen anywhere in the world, so online. And my show is called Savannah on Film. So Savannah on Film. So I've plugged that enough. But I'm just very excited about it. If you know me, I grew up pretending, and I even said this on the episode, I pretended that I had my own radio station. I would listen to American Top 40. I even had made up 2 correspondents that were out in the field and all that. And I would throw over to them, as they say, about different reports. What's the traffic like and all this? I was just imitating stuff. I think this was probably when CNN, when they came out with a 24-hour TV network, which was something back in the early 80s, maybe 1980, 79, 80, 81, something around there. I think it was 80. And Ted Turner at the time, as my dad used to follow sailing, talking about Father's Day, great memories of my dad. And here I remember growing up and he telling me about Ted Turner being called Captain Courageous. That's what they called him. And he raced in the America's Cup series, the America's Cup. And we followed a lot of that through the growing up with my dad. That was a wonderful memory of America's Cup, and sometimes I'll catch them when they're racing, but it's just not the same without my dad. And I'm not an expert yachtsman. I wish I was. I don't have a yacht. Maybe one day, but I don't know. But anyhow, so CNN came out with this 24-hour network. So I remember I saved all the TV guides for an entire year. And as I was going along, I made up my own TV schedule. Basically, I created my own TV station, my own 24-hour station. And I would just basically look at the TV guide and see what shows that I liked that were playing, and different news reports I'd have them at certain times, and I kind of copycat things, and, from what was programming back then. So it was just fun. It was just a way to, do something fun. Apparently I didn't have enough friends. So, but that kind of led, that kind of cataloging or whatever of stuff led to me writing poetry later on, especially in the 90s. I had like this big poetry boom where I wrote about 400 and something poems. I got published about 3 times, and that was nice. I even hosted my own poetry group downtown here in Savannah, in Georgia here. So I was excited about that, and I know you're a geek and you're like, wow, well, maybe what does this have to do with anything? Well, I'm talking in a way about geeking out, and so you can create. It's my love of podcasting, which I'm, like I said, in my 10th year of doing that, and I will say it grew out of the love of listening to American Top 40. I used to listen to Rick Dees, his show too, but I was a big Casey Kasem American Top 40 fan, and my wife had tagged me on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere on social media, and she said, like, dream fulfilled, Casey Kasem would be proud, that hashtag. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I'm no Casey Kasem, but I would like to be one day. That's an aspiration. And wouldn't mind spinning some tunes, as a DJ. I did DJ, but, it was more like a party DJ. So I would go to like weddings and parties and stuff like that. And I did a lot of that back in the 90s. So, I'm 800 years old. I'm a wise old Jedi. Yeah, sure. Okay. But, yeah, we're having fun with this episode. This is not a serious episode here. Not that our episodes are that super serious, but just kind of a little bit of rambling, but it's kind of an organized rambling. So I hope that you're enjoying this little trip down memory lane as we have Father's Day, and we talk about some of the great fathers in history that's in sci-fi. Let's think about that, like Darth Vader. What a great father that was. Really? No, Anakin wasn't a great dad. Well, think about, I've seen this meme out there, and it talks about Darth Vader said, my wife Padme betrayed me, my best friend Obi-Wan cut my limbs off, my son Luke tried to kill me and all that, and later redeemed me. My mentor manipulated me, basically Emperor Palpatine, and he said, but at least my grandson Kylo, or Ben Solo or whatever, he liked me. But there's a lot of great fathers throughout history, and a lot of great men out there today that don't feel bad if you're not a father. You might be a father figure, and I can't say the words father figure without thinking about George Michael's song Father Figure now. And who's with me on that? That song was so great that LL Cool J back in the day kind of, did a rap over it, and it was kind of good, but nothing's as good as the original. And I just saw a special recently about George Michael, one of the great performers, 80s performers, definitely stand out there. But I love music. So that was one of the other things that, I was DJing music. I did it on cassette singles. I did it on, I think I came after albums, came out doing DJing, basically, what I'm saying. with like cassette singles and albums. I had like 700 cassette singles. And eventually I just gave them away to one of those early kind of internet eBay things. And I probably should have maybe hung on to that stuff, but literally it was just more stuff than I needed and I could handle. I got rid of a lot of my old DJ equipment, which was basically 2 big old Pioneer speakers, an amplifier. I think I gave that away. I hung on to that for years. That was probably the last thing that I let go. And then everything, went to CDs, and so I replicated everything in CDs. Essentially, I changed over everything with CDs. I had 2 CD players that didn't match, but they did the job, and I knew how to cue them up, and if I had to use a mixer, I could use a mixer. But I was so good, sometimes I didn't have to use a mixer, but I did. And I even made mixtapes, but I made mixtapes on CD, so I'd make these themed kind of CD mixtapes, and I still have them somewhere. I literally have to search them out, but I would take I love taking different genres of songs if you went with a feeling and being a DJ. And I don't know if DJs out there get this now, because a lot of it's electronic and you just kind of push buttons. And please don't be turned off when I say that. I'm not discrediting your talent, because it does take talent to do what you do. But back then, it just seemed like it was more hands-on when I did it. And I know that's probably a generational thing, and some people are getting back to that with vinyl coming back. I mean, it's never going to truly come back the way it was, but I'm amazed in my lifetime and kind of a little perturbed at myself, because maybe I should have held on to my Thriller album. Of course, everybody had that. I may still have that, but I have like an old G.I. Joe record, little storybook records, and they had the sound effects and everything. And I thought about recreating those, doing something like that, kind of maybe in podcast form we'll do that, like a little radio show. People do that, and it's always something I've kind of been a little interested in. So that's got an interest for me there too. So that's an interesting thing. But I know I'm going off topic here a little bit, but just kind of reminiscing and letting you know my journey from being a DJ and how all this led to podcasting. So in my life, Beatles song there, not trying to quote the Beatles, but you could quote lesser people. They're brilliant. But in my lifetime, I have done a lot of things, and I never actually thought I would get to be on the radio and be a DJ. And then I figured, radio was kind of gone, even though it was still around, and it's still around. Local radio is still around. It's making a bit of a comeback, and I'm glad for that. Well, it's given me another opportunity, and an exciting one, a chance to fulfill a lifelong dream by being a DJ. And when you say DJ, people assume you're a DJ on the radio, but I was a DJ in the clubs. I wouldn't say I'm clubs necessarily. I wasn't a club DJ. I can't do what some of the ones making millions of dollars are doing. I guess I could if I really invested in the equipment and really put forth that effort in that area. And who knows, I don't like to limit myself. I like to try different things. And I think variety truly is the spice of life. I think you do have to go out there and you do have to try all these different things, and you have to find where your niche is. And you don't want to spread yourself too thin, but there's nothing wrong with branching out and doing some different things and just shaking the system up. So in between movie gigs and of being a professional sound mixer, I, do other things. Like this weekend, we're going to find out, as recording this, today is the day they show one of the films that I was involved with in the 48-hour film festival. And this is the second year I did it. Last year I did it was my first time out kind of professionally with my equipment, recording as a sound mixer, and I got nominated for Best Sound. It blew me away. I was not anticipating that. So I, of course, don't know if I'm going to get nominated for Best Sound at all, if my film's going to get nominated. I'm proud of this one. I think it's even better than the one we did last year. And a lot of people seem to be already surprised. I mean, they've been screening them this week in the A block and the B block. So you can check out 48-hour Film Festival. You can look that up online if you're interested. And they'll have these 2018 winners. And I believe the winner of all of this goes to Paris or to Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival. I'm not sure. So more about that online if you want to check that out there. So anyway, I'm part of that 48-hour film festival and excited about that. So I'm doing, what have I done in my life? I'm now officially a radio disc jockey, or DJ, as I call it. Other people call it that too. I am a sound mixer, excited about that, for hire. And I've worked on a lot of films that I've enjoyed, and it's a fun time being on set. Sometimes it can be long, tedious, hard work. Yes, it can be. A lot of times it is. But really that payoff when you're over there, so like when you finally wrap and you're like, yeah, there's this euphoric feeling of just the job well done and knowing that you got to practice your craft. And I see it in all the different departments in a movie set. So it's fun. And being a professional sound mixer has had its advantages because it's helped me hone my sound a little bit better here. And what's interesting is, as I was doing a foray into trying to expand here at Geek Homeworld, our YouTube channel, and, you know, I've learned through going through the Georgia Film Academy, graduating from that over a year ago, and I learned about 3-point lighting. I just have not purchased any 3-point lighting. I've tried to make 3-point lighting, so I'm not as well versed in that visual, even though I did stuff like that before, but just not on this technical level where I can really give you a professional quality that you deserve on the YouTube channel. But I want to have more interactive and visual, audio and visual, the complete package basically, of video podcast episodes. And so I've toyed around a little bit on our YouTube channel. You can check out Geek Homeworld on YouTube, and you'll see. And be kind. Don't leave me any crazy comments, please. I'm trying. It's not the best quality. It's not, you know, nobody's going to ever like everything you do. And, you know, in social media, it's interesting because a lot of people are not so positive. One of the podcasters that I was just going to dinner last night with my wife, and I just saw, and I don't know the context of this, so I'm certainly not taking sides, but one of the gentlemen that I respect who's been doing this for a lot of years, and he has a lot of information, a lot of info in his brain, and I'm just going to not mention his name here because I don't want to stir up anything bad, not that it would, but he's a really great podcaster, and he's one of those people that can teach you how to podcast. He's been one of my mentors, whether he realizes it or not. I think he does because I've told him. But really good guy. Seems really, really knowledgeable and friendly. And you can tell by his tweets and his interactions online that he's just a really nice guy. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, he got into some kind of Twitter-ish semi-war, I don't know, disagreement. I don't know the context and shouldn't really talk about it, but the thing about it is we just need to be kinder to each other online, you know? And I know it's easier when you're behind a screen or you never see a face and you never are, you know, literally face to face ever with that person possibly. But we can have disagreements. We can not get along, but just let's be nicer to each other. I know it's asking a lot. It's 2018. We ought to be all working together towards a common purpose of everyone achieving and realizing their dreams and everybody being part of everything that, you know, just rising the entire tide of everything worldwide, you know, universal. We should be as one, I think. I don't know. And I'm not going to get all political, hot pie in the sky, utopian here, but I just believe in the good in people generally. And I think people generally are nice. And there's nothing wrong with that. So be nice, you know. A smile, a handshake, or whatever, just a simple smile goes a long way. And my journey, and I'm not a father, I've probably been a father figure to a few people, and probably more than I want to be, in the sense that, I'm 48 now, and I don't feel 48. Sometimes the body feels 88 plus, and God bless people that are 88 plus. I hope I make it that far one day, but maybe I will, maybe I won't. Who knows? Maybe my robot body will take over. I don't know what we're going to be doing in the future, but anyhow, I think it's just very important that you make your time count while you're here on this earth, on this plane of existence, whatever you believe, and just make it a better place for everyone around you. And my journey, like I said, I'm not a father technically, but I have a great nephew, very proud of him and watching him grow up. And he's a young man now, and he's going to change the world for great things and make the world a better place. He already has. So maybe you should too. I mean, we all should. We all should. And you're never too old to start again, to find your truth, to find the power that is in yourself and your beliefs, and whatever you believe is, be true to that and be true to yourself, and make sure that whatever your beliefs are, that I think kindness ought to be at the center of what your beliefs are. So there's that. And it sounds a little preachy. I don't mean to be, but to each their own. I just want us all to be nicer to each other. Simple. So my journey from being this young kid that, had we had a lot of this technology when I was younger, I could be a supercomputer genius, theoretical physicist. I don't know what I'd be. Probably be the same thing. But I don't know. It's nice to think that maybe, it's not the technology, though, that makes us better. It's who we are. And the technology, just like Terminators. Terminators can be taught to or reprogrammed. We've seen that from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I know it's science fiction, but Terminators can be taught to be protectors. So you don't have to be a Terminator. You can be nice. You can be good to people. Make the world a better place. What's wrong with that? I don't know. So anyhow, I said this would be a little bit of rambling, and I really started to ramble towards the end there, even though this is all, I'm kind of bringing it all together, basically talking about just thinking in the mode of what we celebrate Father's Day here today in the U.S. and some of the great dads in science fiction. Well, I wouldn't, and like I said, I'm not retreading this, but Darth Vader really wasn't a great dad role model. So what are your thoughts? I'm going to leave you kind of with this. What are your thoughts? Let us know at Geek Homeworld. What are some of the best science fiction dads out there? I wouldn't say Han Solo was a great dad, or maybe he was and he did what he could, but it sounded like him and Leia, and we don't know this because it hasn't been filled in Solo, spoiler alert, and Last Jedi, Last Jedi didn't shed anything on it because he was dead, and there's no Force Ghost for Han, apparently, and because he didn't believe in all that, right? He just believes in luck. But, I think he did say in Force Awakens, it's all true. The Jedi, the Sith, whatever, the Force, it's all true. But in The Force Awakens, we find out, he was kind of, I don't want to call Han Solo a deadbeat dad, but, and that's not taking away from Harrison Ford or anyone that portrayed Han Solo, but he basically was kind of not there, and Leia was kind of a single mom raising Ben Solo, and she tried her best, but then she sent him off to train with his uncle when she saw he was strong in the Force and saw there was too much of his grandfather, Anakin, in him, the bad parts. And, of course, we know what happened, and Kylo became Kylo Ren. And probably by episode 9, he'll be redeemed somehow, and everybody will all be happy and smiling, and it'll be in Star Wars as we know it. The Skywalker, whatever 6 movies is. It's not a trilogy. It's not 2 trilogies. It's just like 3 trilogies. So I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe it's time for the Jedi to end. the Skywalkers have done enough damage throughout history, and I don't know. But maybe there will truly be balance to the Force now. I don't know. But so I don't know how I would rate Han Solo. He's kind of a deadbeat dad. I don't really think, even though Star Wars is kind of about fathers and sons, and I wish I would have thought this out a little bit more clearly. This is not the direction I was going with the episode, but science fiction fathers. I'm really trying hard to figure who that would be. The Terminator, in a sense, was Sarah Connor said that in Terminator 2 that she realized that the Terminator was a better father or father figure, as it were, than most of the men that had come along. And that's a sad state for humanity, saying that a machine can learn to be a father better than a human male can do that. So, and yeah, there's people out there that don't have fathers, unfortunately, or, whatever the situation is, and not criticizing, not passing judgment on anyone. You do the best you can, and there's a lot of single moms holding it down out there. There's a lot of single parents. There's a lot of single dads out there. There's a lot of aunts, uncles, grandfathers, grandmothers that are raising children today, and hopefully they're doing it right. But just because you're in science fiction doesn't mean necessarily that you're a good dad. Harrison Ford playing, was it Lieutenant Deckard? Was it Lieutenant? I'm ashamed if I don't know that. Blade Runner 2049. Was he Ryan Gosling's dad? Was he a replicant? You have to watch it and find out. But I'm not going to tell you. Great movie. That's an excuse to see Blade Runner 2049. See the original and realize they're slower paced movies. That's how they're designed to be. Blade Runner 2049, phenomenally gorgeous cinematography. I believe it won an Oscar for that. So we talked about it. There's an episode about Blade Runner 2049 on here and how brilliant it is. A movie you definitely need to see. Definitely a thinking person's sci-fi movie. So I'm still trying to think of dads in science fictions, fathers in science fiction. You have Roddenberry. He was a figurative dad, I suppose, or the father, not of science fiction per se, but you have a lot of that. If you talk about horror, some say Edgar Allan Poe was the father of horror. Horror? It's horror. I tell you, maybe that's my southern accent. Horror. What is horror? It's horror. Horror. I may have been saying that wrong my whole life and not knowing it. But horror. I can't say horror. I think that's how you say it. you know when you say a word and then all of a sudden you start to say it again and you're like, is that how you say it? Have I been saying it wrong all these years? Maybe I have. So we live and we learn, I suppose. But what about Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining? Was that a good father? I don't think so. Here's Johnny. I can't do a great impression of the great Jack Nicholson, but I wish I could. So my voice got deeper there. It's almost a radio voice, but it's like really deep there. So anyway, I'm messing with you there. Let's try some stereo. Okay, now I'm just getting silly. Anyway, like I said, I shouldn't be up this early on a Sunday morning for no reason. And, well, it's a good reason. I'm talking with you guys here on the podcast. So anyway, time to wrap this up. I'm running a little bit over what I normally would for an episode of the podcast. But check out my new show, Savannah, online at www.wruu.org. You can follow us here on the podcast, geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. You can also follow the podcast here on iTunes. Just search for Geek Homeworld. and download the latest episodes when they come out. And we try to do the episodes on a weekly basis. Life intrudes, and it intrudes greatly when we live our lives. So I can't always get on here on that, my go time is basically put out an episode by 10 p.m. Sunday night, so I catch the international audience first, which shout out to France. You're our second biggest market. You've always been very good to us on the podcast here. England is very popular. Congratulations, Harry and Meghan and all the rest of the royals and all that fun stuff, I suppose. You'd have to talk to my wife on that. She's the Palace Princess is her Twitter handle. So that she's the one that knows about all the royalty, and she does speeches and talks about it. So, and she has a great Twitter following, a great blog that she does. And sometimes you'll hear her on here. And she actually was on the first radio show, my Savannah on Film radio show at 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. And, okay, I'll stop plugging myself here, but that doesn't sound right. That didn't come out right. But you know what I mean? I'll stop plugging all my endeavors. But I'm not here bragging. This is not a braggadocious. I love that. Braggadocious. I didn't create that. It's something I've heard before. But I'm not trying to be braggadocious and brag. I'm just basically showing that with hard work and effort, if you put forth that hard work, you put forth that good effort, you work with good people, work with people that are even smarter than yourself. You don't know everything in this universe, but eventually you'll know enough to do a wonderful job. And if you have a great work ethic, you're going to succeed at a lot of things in life, and you're going to be so much more fulfilled. And your 9 to 5 can be less than that or more than that, but your 9 to 5 job essentially can be a job you totally love. And I hope that you find that job that you totally love, and you find that thing that has that fire inside of you, that voice, that whether you're a poet, an artist, you're working in the film industry, you're creating art, you're doing whatever, just make sure you do it with passion, with fire, with zeal, with that zest for life, and don't let anything stop you. Just, know your truth, know who you are, be who you are, and enjoy life. Just smile and just be happy. And yeah, there are going to be trials, and you're going to face things that you don't think you can handle, but trust me, you're not going to get more in one day than you can handle, even though things always usually seem worse, and sometimes they really are worse. There are times when things are worse than we could even imagine, and that happens, but they're not always going to be that way. So find some solace in that and know that you got it. You got this. And that's something, usually that's the last thing you hear me say. I got this. And then something goes wrong. Like break a dish or drop something, or oops, I did that again, or didn't, or something. So anyway, I'm running on. I'm yip-yapping here, so enough jabber-jawing and all those funny euphemism sayings, whatever. I'm SavageTechman, a.k.a. Ed, and listen to my radio show. I'm going to also be helping launch, and it was supposed to happen in May, and because of a lot of family health issues, a lot of things in life have had to take a back seat, including podcasting, but I am helping my cousin launch a podcast, and it's called Transformed by Transplant. It's coming very soon, and we're already supposed to have our first episode out, so we are running behind. And like they say in radio, you should never say, okay, this guest didn't show up or whatever. You just go with it. You just ignore it, but I'm transparent that way, so I'm letting you know there's a great podcast coming that's going to be very life-affirming and life-changing. It's not geek-centered, but my cousin has a wonderful story to tell, and so I'm going to hopefully in the next, maybe this month, or definitely by next month, really have time, hopefully, to devote to that and give it a proper, not send off, launch of that podcast. So be looking for that. It's coming soon. She has a blog out there called Transformed by Transplant. I'm not going to throw her name out there just yet, but if you're smart enough and you look at the bio, you'll find out who it is on wruu.org, the bio for my television show. Oh my gosh. I'm not Ryan Seacrest or whoever or Dick Clark. I don't have a TV show. Unless someone out there wants to offer me a TV show, I'm listening, as Fraser Crane would say. So enough pop culture references. I'm Ed, I am Ed, aka SavageTechman, and thank you for listening to a wonderful episode of Geek Homeworld. And go out there and watch Incredibles 2. Let us know how it is. Send us all your feedback. Let us know what the best dads in sci-fi are. Your thoughts. I gave you a few of mine. Give me a few of yours, okay? And go over to our YouTube channel. Subscribe there for new content. We have a blog at geekhomeworld.blogspot.com over there on Blogger, so check that out. And I'm Ed for another episode of the Geek Homeworld. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. And if you're a dad or not, or a father figure or whatever, happy Father's Day. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.